GOGI, GOGI, learn GOGI tools, real lessons to live by.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn, and I'm also known as Gogi Mom Carolyn. You are now listening to a special Zoom presentation by the leadership team and some guests if they get a chance to join us. And now we go to Coach Taylor.
I'm so happy that we both logged on a little bit early because I think that gives me a chance just to talk with you, because almost always when we are either together in a Gogi workshop or in a Zoom room, it's you kind of orchestrating and producing everything, and there's multiple people. So I just wanted to say how grateful I am and how amazed I am at the growth from the first time you signed on to a Zoom meeting, you didn't even know how to do that, to now actually running all our Zoom meetings, and to watch you grow is great. And to me, it gives me hope that other women and men who don't have a direct experience of being in a physical prison can really identify with the personal prisons we are all in. Can you speak to that for a moment? Did you at one time think that the GOGI Life Tools were only for prisoners? And how did that kind of change to now it's kind of a language you use? Can you share that a minute?
Yes, thank you so much, Coach Taylor. Yes, absolutely. I heard about Gogi from my son who was incarcerated. And I was just thinking, well, I'm not sure what this is about, but if it's something that he's interested in, that's cool. And, you know, eventually he would teach me some things. And then when I met you through emails and stuff like that, not even through a Zoom, but you invited me to attend a Zoom. And again, like you said, I had no idea what a Zoom was. You had to like counsel me and instruct me to figure out how to do it. And I was very nervous. I have never been incarcerated in a building, but I feel like I have been incarcerated in my life. I have had childhood trauma. I have had spouse trauma. And the GOGI tools, I did think were just for prisoners because that's where I heard about it from my son. But once I started learning about the GOGI tools, I was like, whoa. And I was even telling my husband, and he said, well, that sort of sounds like the 10 Commandments to me. And I'm like, you're right. It sounds like logical, 10 Commandments, being good people, but the GOGI Life Tools are easy. They're easy to understand. They're in like common words. And so when I really dove into it and started learning them, I was like, oh, wow, this is so helpful to me, and wishing that I had learned these earlier in my life. And I think the trajectory of a lot of things in my life would have been different.
Yeah, I know I'm a mother. I had one daughter, and I really wish I would have had these tools as I raised her. She's perfect as she is, and life is perfect as it is. But for a mother to have these tools as they are raising children, I think parenting would be a lot easier. Do you agree? And what are your thoughts on that? How might any mother utilize these tools?
I totally agree with that, because I think that, I've heard and read that they say you buy a toaster, of course, this is probably years ago, and the toaster will come with a little instruction booklet. You have a baby, and back when I had my children, they didn't come with an instructional booklet. There was no YouTube. There was no, self-help groups. There was no groups at hospitals or whatever, at least when I had my children. And so you're kind of going by the seat of your pants, and you're kind of going how your parents raised you, and you're doing the best you can with what you have at the time. So none of us should feel bad. Oh my gosh, I did this wrong, and then that happened. But it would have made it a lot easier on me as a mom. Like just the other day in our regular Tuesday night Gogi Lifers group, we were talking about belly breathing. And my son, who is a Gogi Lifer, he said, my mom used to tell me, just calm down and take a breath, just breathe, just this. But she never told me why, or she never told me how. And I'm thinking, he's right. But my mom would tell me, just sit down, just be quiet, just breathe, just take a minute. but we didn't know. I did what my mom told me to do because my mom was a sergeant at arms in the Navy. That's how she ran our household. So no questions asked, no dirty looks, no nothing. I did what she told me to do, and I just passed that on to my children as a parent. But had I known all about belly breathing, just that one tool by itself, you can help the children. And I have helped my great-grandchildren because they are at an age now. My great-granddaughter is 5 and my great-grandson is 8, soon to be 9. And I can say, I don't say to them now, hey, calm down, or just sit there or be quiet. I say, oh, let's put our hand here and let's put our hand here and let's see if we breathe all the way down. How do we feel? And my great-granddaughter will stop the, that her brother took her dolly and ran around the house with it, and I try to get her calm down first. And then I get the great-grandson and I try to explain to him things, So yeah, there's just so many ways that moms can use the GOGI Life Tools.
Yeah. I remember when I was a psychology student, I had an experiment. I wondered if it would work with kids. And so I asked a dear friend of mine who had a program in Compton if we could go to a Compton elementary school and work with kids. And what amazed me, I went to the principal and I said, could we have like maybe one kid out of each class? Well, of course, the teachers gave us the worst kids. Because if I can get this kid out of my class for an hour, I'll be so happy. And we were teaching these tools to these children. And what I noticed was how empowered they felt.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, there were words and meanings behind sit still. There was a reason for my brain instead of, why are you doing that? You're the boss of your brain. So what I noticed was that the children, rather than build resentment for authority, they embraced their own authority. Would you agree with that? And what's your experience there?
Yes, I totally would agree with that because that puts them in the driver's seat. It doesn't have them feeling like they're bad, that they're, my mom, my grandma, my great grandma, they hate me, whatever like that. And my great niece actually has been on some of the Tuesday night Zooms. And she actually did a little reading and stuff for us. She showed the GOGI coloring book that she had colored in it. And the one was what if? I can't even actually remember the tool that she used, but it might have been what if. And then she was saying, what if I kept my room clean? What would happen then? Then my mom and dad wouldn't yell at me to keep my room clean. And I was like, that's my great niece saying this with all these people on there, Oh,
Great.
Stacy, G-Rep Stacy is going to join us right now. I'm going to let her in.
Let's let her in.
But I was so impressed with her that she said, I thought later, now, did my nephew tell her that? And I don't think so. She's pretty young, but she's very precocious. And she had been coloring in the coloring book. And that was her thought about keeping her room clean. And I just thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Hello, Stacy. Welcome.
Hi, Stacy.
Hello. Where's everybody?
We are here and we're talking about motherhood and the tools and what we observe as we use the tools and what we observe in the children or the youngsters or other people as we see them. And Carolyn was talking about her great niece and the coloring book, and that's this coloring book, which is really cool. The coloring book, the art in it was created by one of our coaches, and it's a wonderful gift for children, but it's just and also for anybody who just likes coloring as a way to relax. So this is the coloring book she was using. Is that right?
Yes, that's the one. I had sent it to her for Christmas, and she was loving coloring in it. And Stacy, you might have been on that Tuesday night GOGI Lifers group. Do you recall when my great niece, she lives in Oregon, and she sat up on that stool and she was real nervous and she was telling us all about it. And I was amazed. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah. As a mother, Stacy, I've heard you more than once, in fact, several times, really talk about how these tools, the Gogi Life tools, have changed the dynamic between you and your daughter. Now, your daughter's not super young. You were able to change the dynamic with your daughter, but she's almost a full-grown woman. Can you speak to that for a moment on how did you introduce these tools to somebody who already had her mind made up? How did you introduce that and create that environment with a almost fully grown woman?
Well, first of all, she does still have her mind fully made up, because she's 14 and they know everything at 14. But there's always new things to learn. I think the most important thing that the Gogi tools have done for me is just change the way that I react and relate to her. She's, like I said, she's 14, and the things that I say, are dated, they're whatever. She, doesn't really listen to me, but so the way I teach the Gogi tools to her, of course, is by using them myself. But I talk out loud as well as, using them. But our relationship I can't speak enough to what they've done to me and how that's improved our relationship, because I could be a very kind of reactive person. I've got my own traumas from growing up. I would say before the Gogi tools, I yelled a lot more, and the way that I, interacted with her were less than positive. So in using the Gogi tools on myself, in changing the way that I act, that in turn changes how she acts. So we're
For you on that. If I was a mother that had a troublesome child and that child irritated me and they wouldn't comply, they wouldn't do anything, I would say, well, you just don't understand. It's this kid. It's this kid. The problem becomes the kid. How did you make that transition from, gosh darn it, this kid is driving me crazy, why won't you listen to me, go clean your room, or whatever it is, to wait a second, I can use these tools to shift from within me, and then that's going to shift the dynamics? Because a lot of parents can't do that. I mean, the kids are pushing buttons all the friggin' time, and you how did you make that transition from, okay, this kid is going to push buttons, but I'm going to use these tools? How did you go from this kid is driving me nuts to, ooh, I need to shift inside so that I can be present with this child differently?
It's funny because there was no real aha moment or transition. Well, maybe it was an aha, I guess, but there was no real transition. I started using the tools on myself, and in noting the change in myself, honestly, I guess I don't know what the transition is. I'm using them on myself, and it worked, not just on my own internal freedom, but the people around me also, can sense that. So I can't really say there was a real transition. I just, from day one that I started using the tools, it just became a big help. Not even focusing on her, focusing on me.
I see.
So,
So the first thing was, wait a second, this tool might help me in my life, not I need to be a better parent or I need to control her. It really was, oh, I can do some internal work on me. And then it started showing up in the relationship.
yeah, kind of, yeah. That is kind of how it went. I have to say, I did spend a lot of years, several years, energy when I wasn't even feeling very well, focusing on my daughter and her mental health, and it wasn't working. Nothing was working. So at some point I said, I got to get myself together, for me, because I'm miserable and I'm not helping her.
I see.
So I just started to help me. And in, like I said, in doing that, I guess there's like this, like an aura that other people, you know, can sense. So
Great. Gogi Mom, your son was incarcerated for a long time, and then he was released, and that took a massive adjustment from being able to call him on Sundays, or he calls you on Sundays, send a package, you go visit, to now this grown man is out on his own. He's getting a car, he's dating, he's moving around. You had to have had a lot of anxiety around that, and you had to have, my guess is, I would know I would, I'd want to control it. Hold on, stay put, don't move, because your relationship had been so confined for so long and it was safe. And now all of a sudden he's getting his own apartment, he's getting a car, he's getting a job, he's not showing up when he's supposed to for family things because he's out on a date or whatever. How did you make that transition from the relationship that was to now the relationship that is? Because the relationship that is extremely powerful, but it could not have been easy. There's no way it could have been easy.
You are correct. Because as a mom, and I tried not to be what they call a helicopter mom. However, this child had been in a location where I knew where he was for a solid 24 years. Prior to that, off and on, total of 30 years. I knew where he was. So when he did get out, I was like, and is he going to follow the rules? Is he going to, be back at his residential home when he's supposed to be? Is he going to not have alcohol, drugs? Is he what? And it was really scary because I just got so anxiety riven and everything. So actually what I did, because I tried to kind of control it myself and I couldn't really, is I said to him, I need to talk to you. Okay, Mom, what? I'm like, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I can't sleep, I don't know where you are. Well, here, how about this? Oh boy, now Coach James is coming into the Zoom room, so he'll hear all this, but we've talked about it, so he'll know. So I said to him, well, what he said, I think to me, like, what can I do to help you with that? And I said, well, there's this.
I'm sorry, let me hear that again.
Sure.
Coach, you said, son, I need to talk to you. I've got a lot of anxiety around it. So you actually were vulnerable in telling him how you felt about him being now let loose on the streets. And
Right.
he said to you, what?
How can I help you? Hey, Coach James, thanks for joining us. I'm answering a question about my son.
And that's you, Coach James.
AKA Coach James, driving in the dark.
Yes, it's late at night and we can see, I don't know if it's a street light or a moon behind you. We could barely see those pearly white teeth of yours smiling, and you're listening in as three mothers talk about their children and being a mother. And we are right now on the topic of Coach James and how he was a very good coach for his mom. So Gogi Mom, let's have you continue a little bit about you being vulnerable enough. And this is my daughter. I'm going to let her know I'm in a Zoom meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Call you back, darling. Okay. So talk to me about, he said.
So I was, before, I don't think, like when he was a teenager, I could never say, hey, let's talk. And we could never sit down and talk because there was two different things going on. But now I felt like after visiting him, talking to him on the phone, writing letters, et cetera, I knew I could say anything I wanted to. So I said, I'm having a lot of trouble. I'm being nervous. I have anxiety. I don't know where you are, da, 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 da. And I said, there's this app that we can put on the phone that I can see where you're at. And he's like, okay, do it. I said, are you sure? Are you like, okay with that? And he goes, yeah, I'm okay with that. And that's what I was doing. I don't do it now. I mean, once in a while I will do it now to see, well, if he's at work, I'm not going to call him, but if he's not at work, I'll call him or text him. But that helped me because I could actually track and see where his location or where his phone was. At first, I was even a little bit, that could be where his phone is and not where he is. I was driving myself crazy about it. And I can't even tell you how long that may have lasted, but it helped me, I don't know, to feel, I don't know how to even say, to feel more comfortable or to feel like, okay, everything is going okay. But also he's been very open to me to tell me, if you have any questions, Mom, just ask me. It's okay. And that's a communication that we never had when he was a teenager, and it wasn't all him, it wasn't all me, but it was just the way it was. We just didn't have that. And now I'm just like so proud of him and so excited. And my sewing and embroidery ladies, they know all about him and, all this other stuff. So, yeah, but to answer your original question, it was very hard on me as a parent when he got out. I wanted him to be out, but it was just a whole scary thing. I had 200 children who had not been incarcerated, and I don't track them.
Right.
Why am I tracking my oldest son? But it was because of the history that I always knew where he was.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm wondering, Coach James, we can't really see you very much, but we could hear you. Most individuals would say, well, get over it, Mom. I'm a grown man. And, but you instead said, well, let's put a tracker on and you can just track me. Can you talk to me a little bit about why you made that decision, where a lot of people wouldn't make that decision? They would feel like it's an infringement on my privacy. I've worked a long time to get this freedom. Stay out of my business. How did you have what I believe to be enough compassion for your mother to allow her a sense of safety that she now says, I don't check it unless I'm going to call him? Can you speak to that for a moment, even though we cannot see your face, but we know you're there?
And you're muted. If you don't know, you're muted.
He might be back at work.
Yeah, because I know he said it was going to be a long day today at the.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think for a child, whether it's a 14-year-old girl or a grown man, it's very difficult for children to actually satisfy the parents' need to know your child is safe. Just know your child is safe. Absent that, we have our GOGI tools. Absent that safety, we have to create that safety within. Otherwise, we fracture those relationships by trying to control them. So let's say, Gogi Mom, that James did not invite you into a conversation and he just said, well, Mom, you're just going to have to get over it. I'm a grown man and I don't know how to help you on that one. How might you have grown past the fear, the anxiety of, for 20 something years, I've known exactly where he was. And now I have no idea. And he's telling me I need to grow up. What would you have done to help soothe yourself, to free yourself from the anxiety, to free yourself from the worry? And then Stacy, we're going to ask you that too, because you got a 14-year-old and that may be applicable to you. But Gogi Mom, what could you have done, or what advice would you give to a mother whose child is a little bit more rebellious or a little less insightful than our Coach James?
Well, my first thought is, since I already was learning about Gogi, and since I was already on some Zooms, but while he was still incarcerated, I think I might have checked in with my Gogi people. And
Okay.
I might have told them, because some of them have been incarcerated, some of them are relatives of incarceration. And I think I would have asked them, oh, hey, you guys, what should I do now? But
Right.
then absent that, if I wasn't already in that, but I knew the GOGI tools, I think I would have to try to rely on what if. What if he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing? What if I don't have to be worried about him anymore? I mean, I was worried about him when he was incarcerated too, because I was worried, are there fights that are going on in there? Am I going to get a telephone call? Then when COVID came, I was really worried about COVID and he wasn't there. So here now he was in the free world and I was still worried, or maybe worried a little bit more, which was probably, what do I want to say? Not realistic for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. That it was what it was. So I think that I would have first reached out to my Gogi people.
Right.
And then I would have really tried to look at my tools and say, which tool can help me through this?
Yeah, Coach James, we're talking to your mom about if you were not in the conversation with her, what would she have done? The conversation was, James, I need to talk to you. I have a lot of anxiety about you being out in the free world. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing. And your response was, well, how can I help you? Let's talk about it. And you even downloaded a tracker app that allowed her to GPS you. Not a lot of individuals would allow their mother, when they're a grown man that's waited a long time for freedom. Not too many men would say, you know, this woman has supported me. She's been there all the time on these visits. She's taken my phone calls. She's always been there. I'm going to give her a tracker app because I have nothing to be ashamed of. Not a lot of people are there. How did you get to that point where your own need for freedom and privacy, you got Big Mother watching after you because this tracker app is on you. How did you make that leap from give me my freedom, get out of my space, let me breathe, Mom, let me breathe, to sure, Mom, you can watch wherever I'm going? Talk to me a little bit about that, because that really speaks to a dynamic, a father-son dynamic, a parent-child dynamic.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that the initial response that people have is when I say that I can be tracked like that or whatever, they're kind of like, wow. But it's, to me, I reached a point where I was happy to have somebody that cared that much, that wanted to know where I was at. And so, and then also too, being accountable, and it works both ways. So I know where my mom is at as well. And so if something happens to her or something like that, that I can track her and find her as well. So yeah, I think us sharing our location, that actually has maybe brought us closer together. But I think we've been actually kind of open and have an open dialogue about everything that's going on, because through maybe the last 10 years of my incarceration, it was, we had a lot of hope, but the gains were very small, but they were small and steady. And so we kept at that, filling it up with positive, and through that, we were able to sort of drop any pretense that maybe mother and child has. Like we stopped lying to each other. We stopped having family secrets. We could openly talk about whatever was on our mind,
Well, here's what if your mom wasn't engaged in that process? You're lucky because you've got two people. You even have a stepfather that's engaged so much so that he's talking about the tools. What if you're just somebody whose family doesn't get it? How can you navigate those relationships so you aren't poisoned by negativity, but not controlling with your positivity either?
Well, I think that for me, I think I didn't have enough self-esteem, and I was so worried about what other people thought and what kind of impression that I was leaving on them, that I think now with my Gogi tools and everything, I'm so focused on what I'm doing today, tomorrow, the next day, that even the people that don't understand it or kind of kid me about it, they start to see it, and then slowly they start to come around, and they start how I've experienced it most is if I do maybe step into a reality check, or if I have a stressor or a miscommunication or an argument with somebody, um, they'll start to tell me to use my tools. You, you know
So,
what I mean? And they'll start to gogi me, and then I kind of like it when that happens, because they're so used to me gogiing them, right? And I also found, because my style is very direct, forward. Like I go and I get after it. I think that people, after a very short period of time, actually they start to kind of get the fact that it's something that I'm very proud of, that it's important to me, and then they don't they try to understand it in the best that they can. And like you always say, it's only takes one tool. And if I can explain one tool to them in that process, that I feel like people learn and they start to pick it up, because mostly for me, getting out by going in, we already have the answers, we already use the tools. We've been able to simplify them and put very simple names to them. And so I see people applying the tools after they learn about them. Honestly, I don't have like, and I find if I try to force my rehabilitation, my ideas about groups, this and that on somebody else, it just doesn't work like that.
I'm
You know
wondering,
what I mean?
yeah. I'm wondering for Stacy, your daughter is not coming to Gogi meetings and she's not reading the Gogi books. How do you present the tools to her? Do you get excited so much so, or controlling, or come on, you just got to learn this? Because that would be my temptation is, come on, why don't you just do this? How do you be present with a 14-year-old girl that has her own mind made up? And how do you navigate that?
Well, it's not easy to navigate life with a 14-year-old, and every day comes new surprises. And in the beginning, I did verbally try to push the Gogi tools on her and tried to get her, come in, sit in the back of a meeting. I'm like, I'll have the camera off, you don't have to talk. No, then I tell her about, this is really helping me, you should try this. No, I've got my own tools. So again, what I had to do is just kind of show it, not say it. And that seems to be the best way for the 14-year-old. And I do see her adopting these tools on her own, without admitting that she's taken any advice from mom. So it is a matter, I think, for certain age kids, especially the ones that know everything already, and their parents are just so old and out of touch. And how dare you say that word? It's so cringe, mom, don't say that anymore. That kind of thing is you can't really tell them, and talk at them. You just have to live it and show them by example. And so sometimes I will talk about the tools as I'm using them, but I try not to talk at her. And for us, for my daughter, and I'm not going to say that's right for everybody, but I have found that that's, the best way to introduce better behavior to my daughter.
Well, I've loved our time together, and I've really loved talking about being a mother and being a parent, and getting some ideas, and definitely wonderful that Coach James could join us on his side of it, on the recipient end of being a son and actually being a Gogi coach. But what I'd like to do is that we each kind of just talk to the audience for a moment about a message that we would want to give as a parent or as a Gogi coach. So Gogi Mom Carolyn, if there was a message that you could give to somebody viewing this, what would you want them to know more than anything else?
Oh boy. Well, if you're watching this and you're wondering what it's all about, I just really would encourage you to, if you have access, getting out by goingin.org, look at the tools, see what you think about them. And if you're interested in joining a Zoom to talk to people and nobody is going to criticize you, I was really worried about that when I first started. I didn't know who had been incarcerated, who had not, who was going to judge me for having a son in prison, blah, blah, blah. None of that goes on. It's a very helpful group. And we do have a Zoom on Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock, and you can get information about that too. But if you're struggling at all, try it. Try it. It works.
Beautiful. Stacy, what would you like the viewers to know?
I would like the viewers that are parents out there that, yeah, any parent out there, you probably already know that it's so important to keep your own emotions in check when you're dealing with your kids. And while we know how important it is, it's not always easy to do that. However, I've found over the 13 months that I've been doing Gogi, I found it easier and easier and easier to be able to do that. And as a reward, I've got a better relationship with my child.
Beautiful. Coach James, from the perspective of having Gogi Mom be your mom and actually navigating being a son and utilizing your tools to impact this relationship with your mother and others positively, what would you like to say to a viewer about how you navigate that or what the benefits are?
I would say that the 12 tools of Gogi has helped my relationship with my mother immensely. Like just talking about the tool over the phone, talking about, just opening up the dialogue to where it's okay to share, that it's helpful to talk about it. And then I just have to say, like, I've known Stacy my entire life since I was 14 years old. And of course, my mother has been with me my entire life. And Coach Taylor, I feel like we were meant to be together for our entire life. And, for the last 10 years of my life, I have communicated with these three women without pretense, without having to hold secrets, without just being there for each other. And if you're searching for like a support system or people to listen to you and everything, this is what happens when you apply your tools. The people in your life start to respond, and then the tools help them as well. So it's like it's just a repetitive thing. Being on calendar is important for me in relapse prevention as well, whether it be relationships or substance abuse or criminal thinking. When I'm on calendar, I always have a tool available to me. I have the tool of the week, the tool of the month, and then I can pick a tool that's applicable for the situation. I've seen Stacy's daughter apply the tool claim responsibility when she learned she could be proud of the choices. I think forgive, like allowing that space to be able to give to the relationship what that relationship needs is important. So I'm super appreciative to have all three of these women in my life, and these tools have just blossomed and made all of our lives better.
Oh, I love hearing that. Yeah, for the viewers, I would say that you are more capable than you can possibly imagine. And the GOGI Life Tools are free. They're for anyone, and they will allow you to unleash your unlimited potential in a way that you can actually be in charge of that creation, which is kind of cool. I'm wondering who would like to recite our pledge, and we're just going to go through the pledge. We won't do call and respond, but I would like to have everybody hear our pledge. Who would like to say our pledge for us before we close up for the night?
I'll say it.
Okay.
May our commitment to the study of Gogi grant us the joy of giving and receiving, so that our inner freedom may be of maximum service to those we love and infinite others.
Thank you so much. I love talking about parenting and the Gogi Life Tools, and I appreciate everybody who's here, and to everybody else, let's do this.
G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I, Gogi told me this, I gotta do it. G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I, Gogi told me this, I gotta do it.